Have you ever felt overwhelmed by life's constant noise, caught in the daily grind, chasing success, yet always sensing something deeper was missing? Imagine discovering a secret, ancient blueprint for reclaiming your peace, focus, and genuine happiness. In today's story, we'll unravel how Stoicism, the ultimate mindset hack, holds the keys to not just surviving but truly thriving amidst the chaos of our modern world. You'll see exactly how simple daily habits can transform stress into strength, uncertainty into clarity, and frustration into lasting fulfillment. The real magic comes at the end, where we reveal a powerful twist that ties everything together, empowering you to finally unlock that calm, confident, unstoppable version of yourself you've been seeking, ready to elevate your life. Hit that subscribe button now, join our growing community, and ensure you never miss these transformative stories designed to enrich your everyday journey. Welcome to this expanded exploration of Stoicism and how its teachings can serve as a powerful ally in modern life. In an era filled with countless distractions, responsibilities, and the ever-rising pressure to excel in every aspect of our daily existence, more and more people are seeking time-tested philosophies to maintain calm, cultivate resilience, and stay true to their personal values. Stoicism, an ancient school of thought founded in Greece and later flourished in Rome, offers practical guidance that remains deeply relevant. This adaptation of the Stoic perspective moves beyond mere theoretical musings. Instead, it provides actionable strategies to meet the challenges of the 21st century. Think of it as your daily toolkit, a means to focus on what truly matters, to tame the endless chatter of the mind, and to embrace self-awareness. The core purpose here is not to lose ourselves in the academic intricacies of ancient texts, but to employ simple, clear instructions that anyone at any stage of life can follow. We begin by examining a core proposition. Stoicism is not just a quaint historical curiosity. Its main voices, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, and others, devoted themselves to helping individuals develop a more disciplined, meaningful, and enriched experience of life. Their approach stressed virtues like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, along with a willingness to reflect deeply on what we can and cannot control. In our modern interpretation, we do not need to sacrifice our worldly engagements to benefit from this approach. Rather, we can integrate Stoic habits into our daily routines from the moment we awaken and set our intentions through each interaction and decision in our work and personal lives, and finally as we unwind at the end of the day. The video content that inspired this rewrite presented 9 major lessons, each delivered through an engaging style that underscores one key insight. Stoic wisdom is accessible to all of us, especially when we link it to personal growth and self-improvement. Unlike purely abstract doctrine, Stoicism demands active engagement. Think of it this way: each lesson or principle amounts to an exercise that becomes a habit over time. As new habits form, they reinforce one another, paving the way for a stronger mindset and a more purposeful existence. Whether we're tackling the subtle relationship between money and happiness, or the practicalities of building a solid morning ritual, Stoicism supplies the philosophical backbone to keep us on track and aligned with our highest aspirations. In these pages, you will find a reorganization of the original lessons into 3 major parts, each broken down into substantial paragraphs intended to preserve every essential detail while expanding upon the concepts. We aim to keep the spirit of the original message intact, focusing on how to apply Stoic-based habits to common life challenges. The goal is not to overwhelm you with another lengthy lecture, but to provide comprehensive step-by-step guidance. If you are new to Stoicism, you'll discover the approach can be surprisingly fresh and practical. If you already have some familiarity with the philosophy, you'll see how each lesson resonates with or even extends what you may already practice, bridging ancient insights and contemporary realities. The Part 1 content will focus on 3 key lessons establishing a meaningful morning ritual to set the stage for the day's successes, conducting a mindful day in review to process lessons learned and victories achieved, and clarifying the true role of money in our lives to avoid unnecessary stress and retain our sense of purpose. Each of these areas revolves around the deeper principle that we have more influence over our own mind's attitudes and behaviors than external events. From the moment we open our eyes until the moment we fall asleep, we make hundreds of small choices that can be informed by Stoic tenets. By committing ourselves to a carefully crafted morning routine, we place ourselves in a proactive state. By reflecting each evening on our experiences, we refine how we respond to future challenges. By understanding the limits of money's power, we free ourselves from endless chasing and focus on what money can and cannot do for our happiness. These are not rules meant to constrain us. Rather, they're guidelines that open our eyes to the best possible outcomes in a world brimming with both potential and pitfalls. Stoics remind us that while we can't change everything around us, we can absolutely refine and elevate our internal landscape. In combining ancient wisdom with modern examples from CEOs who swear by meditation to parents who cultivate gratitude rituals with their children, we'll show that Stoic concepts are not limited to philosophers in togas. Contemporary lives, whether they belong to entrepreneurs or artists, students or grandparents, can all benefit by applying the same universal themes. The textual expansions in each paragraph are meant to give you more context, additional real-world applications, and deeper commentary on how these lessons can shape a more fulfilling life. By the end of this first part, you will have a strong foundation for the rest of the lessons to come, setting the stage for further exploration of Stoicism's enduring guidance. Let us start with the first major lesson, the morning ritual, a daily dose of awesome, as the original text described it. The concept here is straightforward, yet deeply transformative. How you spend your early hours can dictate the tempo and energy of your entire day. Many of us have experienced the morning rush, waking up late, pressing the snooze button multiple times, desperately grabbing coffee, and frantically running out the door. This scramble often leaves us feeling tense and behind schedule before our work or personal obligations even begin. Stoicism suggests a more intentional alternative, one that fosters calm and clarity by making your morning a sacred starting point rather than a chaotic meltdown. The old philosophers recognized something we often take for granted, that the first few hours of the day form a critical window to nurture both body and mind. Aristotle believed that using these early hours for reflection, study, or focused activity could set a peaceful, purposeful tone that echoes throughout all subsequent tasks. Fast forward to modern times, and we see a parallel approach among successful entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Some meditate to purge mental static, others exercise to invigorate the body, while still others read or write to prime the mind for creative thinking. The underlying principle remains the same. By using mornings intentionally, we become architects of our day, rather than passive victims of it. To build an effective morning ritual, it's helpful to break it down into components. First, rise. Mindfully avoid the perpetual snooze button that only fragments your sleep, and instead commit to a consistent wake-up time. Although you might crave extra shut-eye on weekends, try to limit drastic changes in your sleep schedule. Doing so stabilizes your circadian rhythms, ensuring you start each day without feeling as groggy. Upon waking, take a few deep breaths, perhaps do a gentle stretch, and set a guiding intention. This intention could be anything from "I will approach challenges with patience today" to "I will make time for creative pursuits." Starting with a clear, positive objective goes a long way toward shaping subsequent decisions. Next, hydrate and nourish. During sleep, our bodies use a significant amount of water, so rehydrating first thing is vital. A simple glass of water is often overlooked, but it can do wonders for your body and mind. Combine that with a breakfast that supplies good proteins, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates. Skip sugary or processed items whenever possible. They can cause energy spikes followed by dramatic crashes, setting you on an unhealthy roller coaster before midday. Instead, opt for something that fosters sustained energy like oatmeal with nuts and berries or eggs and vegetables. Then, move your body. Whether it's a brisk walk in the neighborhood, a short yoga session, or a full workout, physical activity early in the day releases endorphins, increases blood circulation, and helps prime your mental state for focus and resilience. Finally, consider how you will feed your mind before stepping into your to-do list. Reading, journaling, or meditating serves as a mental stretch, clearing away the mental clutter that accumulates overnight, or even from residual stress carried forward from the previous day. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of remembering each morning what an incredible privilege it is simply to be alive, breathing, thinking, and able to love and learn. By taking these words to heart, we transform the often overlooked morning hours into a launchpad for personal growth. Once you incorporate these practices, however small, into your daily routine, you transform morning chaos into a potent, habit-forming space. This is not about perfection or saturating your morning with too many new tasks. It is about consistently performing a core set of beneficial activities until they become second nature. In doing so, you reduce stress, sharpen focus, and improve your mood. You literally win the morning, which in turn helps you win the day. Proceeding to the second lesson, the day in review, the daily mental detox. Life in the modern world often feels like an unending hamster wheel of activity. We race from one task to another with only fleeting opportunities to pause and think about what it all means. If we never stop to reflect, we risk missing the vital learning moments hidden in our accomplishments and setbacks. The Stoics recognized that reflection is not a passive or indulgent exercise. It's a dynamic tool that transforms isolated experiences into actionable wisdom. The typical daily grind might look something like this. You wake up, follow your hurried routine battle through job-related tasks or personal responsibilities, and then collapse into bed exhausted. Rinse and repeat. In that unrelenting schedule, days blur into weeks and weeks into months. By the time you catch a breath, you might realize you've hardly internalized a single lesson from all of your busyness. Ancient philosophers such as Seneca and Marcus Aurelius were adamant about the importance of reflection, urging their followers and readers to dedicate at least a few minutes each day to introspection. Seneca famously said, "The unexamined life is not worth living," highlighting the necessity of pausing to interpret and learn from our experiences. For Stoics, reflection revolves around three main focal points. First, identify what went well. Did you handle a challenging work meeting gracefully? Did you show kindness to someone having a bad day? Did you follow through on a habit you're trying to develop? Recognizing and celebrating these successes fosters optimism and gratitude, both proven to contribute to psychological well-being. Second, acknowledge the moments that fell short. Perhaps you lost your temper, procrastinated, or missed an opportunity to help a friend in need. When approached with honesty and self-compassion, these negative moments become catalysts for growth. The question is not, why did I fail, but what did I learn and how will I improve next time? This shift from self-blame to self-analysis can help us become better people, day by day. Third pinpoint, small course corrections. Even 1 or 2 slight adjustments can produce significant progress over time. Suppose you realize that one of your biggest stressors is a cluttered workspace. One day's reflection might lead you to spend 15 minutes tidying up before you begin your next project. Another day's reflection might inspire you to switch off certain phone notifications that repeatedly interrupt your concentration. Each day, these minor improvements accumulate, fueling steady personal evolution. Real-world examples abound. High-profile CEOs often credit the habit of keeping a daily journal for fostering better decision-making. Athletes regularly replay their performances in their minds, dissecting what went well or poorly, and using those observations to sharpen their next training session. Parents might use a bedtime ritual with their children that includes recounting the day's positives and acknowledging any frustrations, thus teaching the child and themselves emotional intelligence. In any context, the principle remains the same. Review fosters discovery, and discovery fuels growth. By solidifying this reflection, time each day you carve out a moment to be introspective, to celebrate your victories, and to harvest knowledge from your missteps. Over time, you become more attuned to how you respond to the world around you, and more conscious about how you want to show up tomorrow. Stoicism in this sense is not distant or forbidding. It is a compassionate practice that acknowledges human imperfection while urging us to refine ourselves continually. When you combine the reflection habit with a solid morning ritual, you create a powerful, self-sustaining cycle of mindful living, beginning each day intentionally and ending each day with purposeful evaluation. Next, we arrive at the third lesson, the truth about money and happiness. If there's one topic that continues to fascinate and sometimes perplex modern society, it is the role that money plays in shaping our lives. Popular culture often suggests that monetary gain is the key to happiness: bigger houses, fancier cars, more luxurious vacations. But does accumulating wealth actually secure lasting peace of mind or a truly meaningful existence? From a Stoic standpoint, the answer is far more nuanced than a simple yes or no. Stoic thinkers such as Seneca and Epictetus recognized that money has utility, but they emphasized that it should never govern a person's sense of self-worth or become the sole metric of success. Seneca famously wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor," pointing to the endless chase that can result from conflating satisfaction with acquiring possessions. Psychological research in modern times mirrors these sentiments. The hedonic treadmill effect demonstrates that while an initial financial improvement might boost happiness, briefly, people often return to a baseline level of contentment. Before long, their yearning for yet another promotion or material upgrade, continually convinced that just a bit more will be enough. Of course, money solves many practical problems. It can improve access to healthcare, education, and security. The Stoics never denied that resources can be beneficial. What they did caution against is making money the core or single pursuit of life. Because when one is enslaved to wealth, the external environment gains undue power to dictate one's mental state. You might develop crippling anxiety when stocks fluctuate or feel deep dissatisfaction even while earning a six-figure salary, because you believe seven figures is the real mark of success. In seeking a balanced perspective, Stoics suggest that true wealth arises from desiring less. This does not mean giving up all aspirations or living in poverty. Rather, it is about examining your needs versus your wants. Reflect on whether your purchases and your pursuits align with your genuine values. Are you funneling resources into experiences and activities that enrich your life, or simply accumulating more stuff that quickly loses its shine? Similarly, giving back through charity volunteering or mentoring often leads to a kind of personal fulfillment that no shopping spree can replicate. Consider examples of minimalist millionaires who, after earning substantial fortunes, choose to live modestly, investing their time and resources into philanthropic initiatives or into personal passions that add meaning rather than clutter. Or look at Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, whose philanthropic endeavors, such as the Giving Pledge, highlight a conscious shift from accumulation to distribution. Their worldview embraces the notion that one of the most purposeful ways to leverage wealth is to help solve large-scale problems, thus underlining the Stoic emphasis on communal betterment and virtue. For the rest of us, we might simply begin by tracking our spending more mindfully or performing small acts of generosity. The focus lies in recognizing that money itself can't guarantee happiness, and that fulfilling life experiences and authentic relationships often lie at the heart of what truly nourishes the human spirit. By disentangling our sense of self from our net worth, we also reduce a major source of anxiety, allowing us to channel time, energy, and creativity into personal development and community-building pursuits. In Stoicism, the wise approach is to appreciate and manage our resources sensibly without allowing our possessions or lack thereof to rule our sense of contentment. By way of reinforcing these first three lessons, morning rituals, day-in-review exercises, and a measured understanding of money, we can already see how Stoicism lays down a practical roadmap for daily living. It might be helpful to think of these lessons as an interlocking system, so when you have a solid morning ritual, you start your day composed and purposeful, which leads naturally to better decisions about how to spend money, how to treat others, and even how to handle minor setbacks. Meanwhile, reviewing your day each evening cements improvements in real time, preventing negative behaviors from becoming ingrained. Financial considerations also occupy a significant portion of our daily deliberations. So adopting a Stoic outlook on wealth leads to less stress and more strategic, value-driven spending. These lessons underscore a broader Stoic principle, taking responsibility for what lies within our control, while acknowledging and gracefully letting go of what lies outside it. We can shape how we start our day, how we learn from each day's experiences, and how we treat the concept of wealth. We cannot control the external economy, the unexpected expenses that sometimes come our way, or in many cases, how other people will treat or judge us. But we can choose our mindset, our reactions, and our sense of proportion regarding what truly matters. Moreover, these early lessons remind us to maintain perspective on what it means to be successful. Many people measure success purely by external achievements, job titles, bank balances, or public recognition. But Stoicism urges us to broaden that definition. A consistently calm mind, a deep reservoir of gratitude, and a commitment to personal growth are also substantial markers of success. When viewed in that light, success is not something that only the wealthy or the famous can access. It becomes a democratic concept available to anyone willing to refine the way they think, act, and approach the joys and sorrows of life. keep in mind that Stoicism isn't about denying emotional richness. The lesson on money might initially sound as though Stoics advocate a Spartan lifestyle, devoid of pleasure. Yet Seneca and others frequently acknowledged that it's natural to enjoy comfort possessions and social occasions provided these do not become the central aim of one's existence. If an individual can enjoy a good meal or a fine piece of art without becoming attached to it as a measure of personal worth, then they have embodied a Stoic approach to worldly goods. Additionally, these lessons emphasize discipline. Waking up at a consistent time to hydrate and move the body might seem trivial, but it requires a conscious act of will. Reflecting each night on what went well and what didn't can be humbling, especially if it highlights areas where we fell short. And resisting social pressure or personal cravings to chase money or material status at the expense of meaningful relationships can be daunting. Yet discipline coupled with an authentic grasp of why we do what we do gradually evolves into genuine freedom. The Stoics teach that real liberty is not the absence of constraints, but the empowerment born of a well-trained mind. Before advancing further, let's illustrate the interconnectedness of these ideas with a couple of extended real-world scenarios. Imagine a busy professional, let's call her Maria, who struggles with finding time for her family and for her mental well-being. By adopting Stoic strategies, Maria decides first to rework her morning routine. She wakes up 30 minutes earlier than usual, mindfully sips a glass of water, practices a quick series of stretches, and then spends 5 minutes journaling about her intentions for the day ahead. Over time, this shift in her schedule and mindset positively impacts her entire day. She finds she's more present during work meetings, less prone to snap judgments, and more open to creative problem solving. Come evening, Maria engages in a simple day in review, reflecting on interactions that required patience, problems she resolved effectively, and instances where she might have lost her temper or grown anxious. Instead of chastising herself, she treats these reflections as learning moments, building a more balanced self-awareness. In parallel, Maria begins questioning her spending habits. She realizes that her expensive daily cafe trips and frequent late-night online shopping binges aren't actually making her happy. They're more of an emotional coping mechanism. Inspired by Stoic principles, she commits to cutting down on frivolous expenditures and putting the money saved into a small experience fund she uses to take her family on meaningful weekend outings. Another scenario. Consider Robert, an entrepreneur, consumed by the idea of striking it rich. Initially, his motivations revolve solely around building a massive empire. He invests every waking moment into chasing the next big deal and fixating on short-term gains. Yet Robert finds himself consistently frustrated, experiencing anxiety about potential losses and fixating on external markers of success. After studying Stoic lessons, he starts a morning ritual of reflective reading, absorbing insights from Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus. He also practices an evening mental detox, writing down what he learned about his own behavior in business negotiations or team management. Bit by bit, Robert's perspective changes. He starts seeing that the satisfaction he gains from supporting his employees' growth and crafting a product that genuinely serves customers runs deeper than the quick high of financial wins. Although he still strives for profitability, he no longer allows minor setbacks or market fluctuations to dominate his emotional state. His calmer presence fosters a better workplace culture. He also notices he doesn't impulsively spend on ostentatious luxuries, choosing instead to strengthen his venture's foundation. Robert's investor confidence grows ironically as he adopts a less financially obsessed mindset and focuses more on personal integrity, resilience, and meaningful contributions. Both Maria's and Robert's narratives highlight the synergy of a structured morning routine, thoughtful end-of-day reflection, and a balanced perception of money's role. Each step supports the next, forming a feedback loop of self-improvement. Small, consistent changes like rearranging the first or last 15 minutes of your day can accumulate into profound transformations. Indeed, one of the hidden strengths of Stoicism is its patience. It does not promise overnight miracles, but emphasizes steady, conscious effort. Each day provides a new chance to refine habits, to adjust mindsets, and to deepen one's commitment to living in alignment with carefully chosen values. Summarizing, Part 1, we see that Stoicism goes far beyond intellectual exercises. It is a call to practical engagement with life's daily rhythms. Each of the 3 lessons introduced morning routines, day-in-review reflections, and a recalibrated relationship with money can be considered fundamental building blocks. They set the tone for more advanced Stoic strategies that we will discuss in subsequent parts. Understanding these cornerstones helps us move more seamlessly into the next set of ideas, pushing for deep understanding, embracing the journey over the destination, and employing mantras to reinforce positive self-talk. In combining these strategies, one pattern becomes evident. Stoicism invites us to look inward first to establish a stable mental framework from which to act. In other words, we can never be certain of external events, whether they be economic downturns, challenging co-workers, or personal troubles, but we can prepare our mind to greet each scenario with poise. Lesson 1 underscores the importance of preparing each day with a calm approach. Lesson 2 frames how we should learn from our experiences. And Lesson 3 clarifies the relationship between external resources and true contentment. On a broader level, this focus on internal control versus external unpredictability is a defining characteristic of Stoicism. Many of the frustrations in our lives come from trying to rearrange the external world to suit our preferences, only to discover that no matter how hard we try, total control is a myth. But the Stoics propose that real empowerment comes from shaping our perceptions, responses, and guiding principles. The morning routine is a microcosm of that philosophy. You can't control the inevitable morning traffic or the random demands your boss might make, but you can control how you begin your day. Similarly, while you can't remove every obstacle at work or in relationships, you can evaluate each day's triumphs and failures with reflection, gleaning lessons that guide wiser action tomorrow. And when it comes to money, you can't ensure that your investments will always go up or that job markets remain stable. But you can manage your desires, your spending patterns, and the emotional weight you assign to wealth. As you consider how to incorporate these teachings into your life, remember that incremental changes compound over time. A single day of skipping the snooze button or journaling at night won't revolutionize your world, but repeated consistently, these practices nurture a mental soil where virtuous qualities can flourish. Stoicism's enduring relevance lies precisely in that humility and realism. It acknowledges that self-mastery is not achieved with one grand gesture, but through daily, deliberate steps. In that sense, each morning, each reflection, and each financial choice becomes an opportunity to practice virtue and clarity. Having laid this groundwork, we will transition in Part 2 to a deeper inquiry into some of the more expansive Stoic principles, going beyond surface-level understanding, celebrating the journey, rather than just the outcome, and discovering how a personal mantra can keep us aligned with our highest intentions. These ideas will build on what we've already discussed, offering a glimpse into the deeper psychological and emotional aspects of Stoic philosophy. Think of it as leveling up. We've started with the essential moves, and next we'll delve into advanced ways to sharpen and refine the Stoic mindset in everyday life. Welcome to part 2 of our expanded Stoic guide. Building upon the foundational principles. Explored earlier, solidifying a purposeful morning routine, conducting a constructive day in review, and nurturing a balanced understanding of money. We now shift our attention to 3 additional lessons that further illuminate the depth and breadth of Stoic thought. These lessons underscore that Stoicism is as relevant now as it was 2 millennia ago, offering a pragmatic approach for modern life. In this section, we will uncover how to push for deep understanding, why focusing on the journey is more vital than chasing a singular prize, and the power of mantras to reinforce a resilient mindset. First, let's examine the idea of pushing for deep understanding. We live in an information-saturated age. Every day we are bombarded with emails, social media feeds, text messages, news broadcasts, advertisements, and a near limitless supply of online content. But the question arises, how much of this do we truly integrate into our consciousness in a meaningful way? Stoics encourage us to move beyond superficial familiarity. In the ancient tradition, philosophers like Socrates would ask penetrating questions, not to show off their intellect, but to uncover fundamental truths. Socrates famously declared, "I know that I know nothing," highlighting the importance of humility in the quest for real knowledge. Modern parallels are easy to find. We see investigative journalists who dig deeper than headlines, gathering data, seeking testimony, and verifying sources to uncover hidden truths. Scientists conduct repeated experiments to test and refine hypotheses, seldom accepting initial findings at face value. Entrepreneurs, too, must constantly question market assumptions, pivoting their business models as they gain more nuanced insights about consumer needs. For the rest of us, pushing for deeper understanding might manifest as taking the time to genuinely explore a new book, rather than skimming for key points or engaging in thoughtful discussions, rather than reacting to sensational headlines. By prioritizing understanding over mere fact accumulation, we become more discerning and less prone to misinterpretation or misinformation. From a Stoic perspective, seeking deep understanding protects our minds from the turbulence of fleeting impressions. It's easy to be swept away by rumors or half-truths if we never pause to analyze their validity. The first principle, as physicist Richard Feynman once said, is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Although Feynman was no Stoic, his observation aligns perfectly with the Stoic emphasis on rigorous self-examination. This includes critically evaluating not just the information swirling around us, but our own biases and assumptions. Indeed, the Stoics believed that self-deception is one of the greatest threats to wisdom because it fortifies ignorance behind a veil of unwarranted certainty. Moreover, the quest for deeper understanding doesn't just improve decision-making, it also fosters empathy. When we thoroughly explore a topic, especially one with varied or conflicting viewpoints, we gain insight into why people hold certain beliefs. This widens our perspective, reduces knee-jerk judgment, and enhances our capacity for compassion. It's not that Stoics sought to eradicate emotion. Rather, they sought to ground emotion in reason and perspective. By comprehensively examining an issue, we create a more inclusive outlook, which is essential for harmonious relationships and communities. Through thoughtful inquiry, we not only refine our intellect, but also elevate our moral compass. Building on the importance of understanding, we move to the only prize worth chasing, the journey itself. Modern society often glamorizes winning success and external accolades, making us hyper-focused on outcomes rather than the process. We see this in athletic competitions, academic achievements, career milestones, and social media highlight reels that display only the end results: trophies, promotions, new homes, or extravagant vacations. But behind those shiny achievements, countless hours of training, setbacks, rejections, and self-doubt typically remain invisible. Stoicism warns us about chasing superficial illusions, reminding us instead to invest in the day-to-day process of growth. A helpful analogy is found in sports. An Olympic athlete trains relentlessly day in and day out, but the competition that garners public attention might only last minutes or seconds. The athlete's identity and self-worth cannot be solely defined by that fleeting podium moment. For the Stoics, it is the dedication, discipline, and personal transformation that truly matter. Epictetus frequently underscored that external successes are never guaranteed, so investing your emotional well-being in them sets you up for a roller coaster of euphoria and despair. Translated into a modern professional context, consider the entrepreneur who pins all their hopes on a successful product launch. If the product flops or gets overshadowed by a competitor, that external failure could be devastating if the entrepreneur has not learned to value the journey of creation, problem-solving, and resilience. On the other hand, those who embrace the process, learning from each setback, refining their methods, and continually growing, stand a better chance of maintaining motivation and mental stability. This focus on process over outcome is reminiscent of the concept of flow, described by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Flow arises when a person is fully engaged in an activity for its own sake, often losing track of time because they are so immersed in challenges that match their skill level. Moreover, purely outcome-focused living can lead to the destination addiction phenomenon, where people perpetually believe that happiness lies just around the next corner. When we interpret life as one big scoreboard, we see ourselves and others in terms of winners and losers, ignoring the subtle lessons and joys found in everyday experiences. This can warp our sense of self-worth, making it depend on external metrics like promotions, social media likes, or net worth. By contrast, Stoicism encourages a persistent dedication to daily improvement anchored in personal values and virtues, such as honesty, courage, and generosity. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who wrote extensively in his personal journal later published as Meditations, constantly reminded himself that recognition and status are transient. He urged himself to focus on living in accordance with nature, and reason, doing the best he could in each action and letting outcomes unfold as they may. In adopting a similar mindset, we become less vulnerable to external fluctuations. Whether we succeed or fail in a material sense, we retain the satisfaction of having approached every task with integrity. By shifting our lens from the spotlight of external success to the daily practice of incremental growth, we free ourselves from the perpetual anxiety of never feeling good enough because real accomplishment is internal and self-sustaining. We now spotlight the power of a personal mantra, the next key lesson in the Stoic approach to life. A mantra is not just a New Age concept. It has deep historical roots in spiritual and philosophical traditions worldwide, from Hindu and Buddhist chants to the affirmations in Christian contemplative practices. At its essence, a mantra is a carefully chosen word or phrase that you repeat to yourself, often aloud or silently, to solidify and direct your mindset. A mantra acts as a short, potent reminder of the values or perspectives you want to embody. Why can a few words or a simple phrase hold such power? Cognitive science provides part of the explanation. Our thoughts shape our emotional states, and repeated thought patterns can rewire neural pathways in the brain. In simpler terms, what we think about frequently becomes more ingrained in our psyche. If we allow negative self-talk to go unchecked, like telling ourselves we are not capable, not worthy, or perpetually behind in life, these beliefs begin to crystallize. A mantra interrupts that cycle, offering a constructive, uplifting alternative. For instance, if you wrestle with anxiety under high pressure, a phrase like "I meet challenges with calm and strength" can remind you to center yourself in the face of adversity. Stoics might phrase a mantra in moral or rational terms. For instance, Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of fundamental truths such as the impermanence of life or the necessity of focusing on one's own thoughts and actions. Epictetus might have repeated something like, "I control my responses, not external events." Seneca could have reaffirmed daily that true wealth requires few possessions. These short moral or philosophical reminders steady the mind, stopping it from drifting into destructive rumination or fire. Moreover, a mantra can instill a sense of confidence and capability in specific domains of life. Athletes might remind themselves, "My training is strong. My mind is focused," while stepping up to the starting line. Entrepreneurs could say, "Each challenge is an opportunity to innovate," before pitching an idea to investors. Parents might use a simpler motto like, "Patience and love guide me," especially if they find themselves growing impatient with a child. In these cases, the mantra acts like a mental anchor, realigning one's inner dialogue with a chosen principle. Creating your own mantra involves introspection. You might ask, what area of life do I find most challenging or prone to negative thinking? What virtue or trait do I most want to cultivate resilience, empathy, discipline, or focus? Then craft a brief statement that captures this aspiration. Keep it concise, perhaps just a few words. Then make it a habit to repeat this mantra during your morning routine when you anticipate stressful moments or before a major endeavor. Over time, you'll find that the mantra is not magic, but it can prime your thoughts and emotions, making you more receptive to acting in accordance with that principle. It's a form of mental hygiene, not unlike brushing your teeth or exercising your body. When integrated with Stoic reflection and mindful awareness, a mantra can become a quiet yet potent ally, shielding you against fleeting emotional storms and fostering the virtues that Stoics prize. To see how these three lessons, pushing for deep understanding, embracing the journey, and leveraging mantras, function in tandem, we might consider a scenario involving someone on a significant personal journey. Let's take Sarah, a university student juggling part-time work, family obligations, and a passion for creative writing. Sarah often feels overwhelmed by the barrage of course readings, online articles, social updates, and the mental pressure to produce written pieces good enough for publication. After discovering Stoic teachings, Sarah decides to approach learning with greater depth. Instead of trying to memorize everything superficially for the sake of passing exams, she commits to thorough comprehension. She forms study questions, engages her professors in deeper discussions, and cross-references sources, recognizing that real understanding serves as a foundation not only for academic success, but also for a richer intellectual life. Simultaneously, Sarah battles the temptation to measure her writing success solely by external recognition and acceptances in literary magazines, social media praise, or faculty accolades. Embracing the Stoic lesson on the primacy of the journey, she reframes her goal. She wants to become a better writer every day, finding authenticity in her style and enjoyment in the process of composition. She consistently reminds herself that even if her latest draft is rejected, each day spent honing her craft is valuable. This perspective frees her from despair when a piece doesn't resonate with a particular editor or competition. To reinforce these attitudes, Sarah crafts a personal mantra. I grow through reflection, not rejection. She repeats this phrase each morning before opening her laptop to write. When she feels the sting of criticism or faces writer's block, she takes a moment to recite it. This short statement orients her back to her guiding principle that challenges are stepping stones rather than dead ends. Over time, Sarah notices a shift in her emotional resilience. She becomes more willing to take creative risks, less obsessed with external approval, and more attuned to the deeper joys of the learning process. Real-life parallels are found in countless domains. Professionals in high-pressure roles often need to remind themselves that genuine expertise comes from diving beneath surface-level knowledge, and that reaching certain milestones doesn't automatically equate to lasting fulfillment. Musicians who focus purely on performing at prestigious venues might burn out, whereas those who love the practice sessions, the camaraderie, and the incremental improvements in technique are more likely to experience sustained satisfaction. Even parents can benefit. Rather than aiming to raise a child who excels at everything, they might realize that fostering consistent growth and curiosity in their child is far more rewarding than collecting trophies. By blending these three lessons with the earlier ones, intentional mornings, reflective evenings, and a balanced approach to money, a clearer image of the Stoic life emerges. It is not a rigid doctrine that strips away personality or joy. On the contrary, it is an adaptable framework that helps individuals harness their capacities and remain centered amidst the vicissitudes of fate. The modern world may be complicated, but the Stoic approach remains elegantly simple in its insistence that what matters most is often right within our power to cultivate the caliber of our mind, the depth of our understanding, and the sincerity of our actions. As we continue exploring the nuanced lessons of Stoicism, let's expand on a theme touched upon throughout the development of critical thinking and empathy. When pushing for deeper understanding, it's not simply about intellectual rigor, although that's certainly a component. It's also about bridging the gap between knowledge and compassion. When we thoroughly investigate a situation, be it a political debate, a cultural conflict, or a personal disagreement, we begin to see the humanity in other viewpoints. For the Stoics, this was an extension of living in harmony with nature, which includes recognizing that all humans share a common capacity for reason. Similarly, the practice of focusing on the journey over the result fosters empathy in the sense that we become more patient with ourselves and others. Suppose a colleague or friend is learning a new skill. If our only metric of success is the final outcome, did they pass the exam or get the promotion, we might be quick to judge a failure. But when we adopt a process-oriented mindset, we see the effort, the struggles, the progress. We learn to admire perseverance, to offer encouragement, and to withhold harsh judgments that revolve solely around winning or losing. Empathy emerges naturally from an awareness that everyone is an ongoing work in progress, contending with their own hurdles. Mantras in their own subtle way can also embed empathic values. Consider a mantra that includes an exhortation to meet others with compassion or choose understanding over anger. By frequently reciting such words, we train our hearts and minds to consistently adopt a more constructive attitude in our interpersonal interactions. This is especially crucial in a digital world where miscommunication and quick-to-trigger anger are rampant. Just scroll through any social media platform to see how quickly disagreements can devolve into name-calling. A Stoic approach to mantras combined with reflection can help us pause, breathe, and respond with equanimity, rather than react impulsively. Historical Stoics didn't live in a vacuum. They were active participants in political affairs, legal matters, and daily disputes in bustling cities like Athens and Rome. Marcus Aurelius, as emperor, was well aware of the complexities of leading an empire filled with diverse peoples and interests. His private meditations are replete with reminders to practice kindness, temper his anger, and act with justice. Some modern readers interpret Stoicism as emotionally detached, but a closer read reveals an ethic deeply invested in communal well-being. This underlines how pushing for deeper understanding and adopting an internal narrative that fosters compassion are not weak or naive stances, but pragmatic approaches to navigate real-world complexities with grace. Additionally, these concepts tie back to the earlier lesson on money. When you realize that others might also be under financial stress or chasing illusions of wealth, it becomes easier to be less judgmental and more supportive. Your approach to charitable giving or volunteer work might shift as you gain insight into systemic financial inequalities. This fosters a sense of shared humanity, aligning well with the Stoic view that we are part of one larger human community, an idea invoked in Aurelius's notion of each individual being a limb of the same organism. From a strategic standpoint, empathy combined with deep understanding can even enhance business relationships, negotiations, and conflict resolutions, ultimately leading to win-win scenarios rather than zero-sum standoffs. If we pause and look at contemporary culture, many individuals striving for self-improvement are drawn to Stoicism precisely because it offers an actionable blueprint rather than abstract moralizing. The lessons in Part 2, pushing beyond superficial knowledge, valuing the process over the result, and leveraging mantras complement the foundational habits introduced in Part 1. But how do we effectively integrate these new insights into our ongoing practice, considering life's ever-evolving demands? The key is repetition, reflection, and incremental application. Take, for instance, the technique of repeated questioning to deepen understanding. You can apply this method in your professional life by approaching a complex report or presentation with the repeated why technique. Why is this data important? Why are these conclusions valid? Why might there be an alternative interpretation? This approach ensures that you're not just memorizing bullet points, but genuinely grasping the core of the subject. In personal settings, like dealing with interpersonal conflicts, pushing for deeper understanding might mean pausing to ask, why might this person hold that belief? Why does this situation trigger me emotionally? The repeated why helps unravel hidden assumptions, leading to more thoughtful responses. Similarly, adopting a journey-centric mindset involves harnessing the idea of incremental progress. It is helpful to break larger goals into smaller milestones. If your ambition is to write a book, for instance, don't obsess over the publishing contract or bestseller status. Instead, focus on writing a set number of words daily or weekly. Celebrate each draft or chapter, recognizing that mastery emerges through consistent practice. Over time, the process-oriented mindset fosters durability against setbacks. Rejection from an agent or negative feedback from a reviewer, while disappointing, no longer defines your worth or your sense of accomplishment. As for mantras, they work best when tied to specific triggers or routines. For example, you might choose to repeat your mantra during your morning cup of coffee or tea right before you switch on your computer or each time you feel the onset of stress. This consistent coupling of the mantra with a particular cue strengthens its psychological impact. Eventually, you begin to associate the mantra's message with that moment, making it a natural reflex to adopt a calmer or more determined mindset. Now, integrating these principles doesn't mean you'll experience no frustration or that you'll immediately become immune to setbacks. Emotional fluctuations are part of the human condition, something even the most stalwart Stoics acknowledged. Rather, these strategies act like mental guardrails, ensuring that when difficulties do arise, you have a strong framework to navigate them. Over time, your baseline reactions shift. You become less reactive, more reflective, and more attuned to opportunities for growth. In a sense, we can envision Stoicism as a layered practice where each new concept we adopt sits on top of a solid base of habits and reflections. The morning routine, the day-in-review process, and the balanced approach to money form the bedrock of daily conduct. Pushing for deeper understanding, celebrating the journey, and employing mantras then enrich that base, addressing our intellectual curiosity, our emotional resilience, and our internal narrative. It's much like learning a martial art, where foundational stances and movements provide the stability to perform more advanced techniques without losing balance. Over time, the synergy of these lessons propels us towards self-mastery. In closing part 2, let us briefly reflect on the synergy that emerges when we take these lessons together, from understanding the potential pitfalls of superficial thinking, to savoring the day-to-day process, to harnessing mantra-like affirmations for emotional resilience. Each principle acts as a facet of a holistic approach to living wisely and ethically. Taken together, they shape not just how we think, but how we act, transforming even mundane routines into potent platforms for self-improvement. Pushing for deeper understanding means we do not rest with a cursory glance. Instead, we probe beneath the surface, cultivate empathy, and strive for a realistic view of reality. This habit protects us from manipulation and fosters authentic learning, whether we're analyzing news articles or engaging in conversations with people who disagree with us. Embracing the journey, rather than fixating on a single ephemeral victory, ensures we remain adaptable, persistent, and joyfully engaged in what we do. This approach discourages a win-at-all-costs mentality, which often leads to burnout or moral compromise, and instead encourages sustainable ambition guided by inner values. The power of mantras further fortifies this psychological scaffolding. By consciously choosing empowering phrases that highlight growth, courage, patience, or compassion, we actively reprogram our internal monologue. In moments of turmoil or doubt, these phrases serve as quick mental resets, reminding us of what we stand for and the perspective we wish to maintain. While critics may label such affirmations as trivial modern psychology, supports the power of positive self-talk in shaping behaviors and coping with stress. The Stoics understood this centuries ago, as evidenced by their consistent emphasis on reflection, self-scrutiny, and the repetition of guiding principles. Combining these lessons with Part 1's core strategies, beginning the day with intention, ending it with reflection, and seeing money as a tool rather than a determinant of happiness, creates a robust framework for mental and emotional well-being. Even as we face challenges like job instability, shifting personal relationships, or health concerns, these Stoic habits form a kind of mental muscle memory, prompting us to respond with measured thoughtfulness rather than uncontrolled reaction. And when we do react poorly, because we will at times, we can rely on the reflective practices to learn from those moments. As we proceed to part 3, we will delve into the final set of Stoic lessons exploring topics such as the 3 areas of training, desire, action, and ascent, the importance of observing wise role models, and the virtue of simplifying our lives. These upcoming topics will round out our study of how to apply Stoicism holistically. Think of it as gathering the last pieces of the puzzle, ensuring that we have a complete picture of how Stoic disciplines can contribute to a well-rounded, resilient, and meaningful existence. At that point, we'll also revisit how each piece connects to form an overarching tapestry. A tapestry that you can continue weaving in your own life, adapting it to your individual needs and aspirations. For now, take a moment to internalize how you might incorporate deeper comprehension, process-centered goals, and mantras into your existing routines. The next part will build on this strong foundation, ensuring that your personal journey with Stoicism does not remain an intellectual exercise, but becomes a living practice with real transformative effects. Having laid down a strong foundation in parts 1 and 2, we now venture into the final phase of our expanded Stoic exploration. This third installment focuses on unifying the threads and ensuring that the entire tapestry of Stoic philosophy can be applied cohesively. We will cover 3 crucial lessons that bring additional clarity and practical depth. The 3 areas of training, desire, action, and ascent. The importance of observing the wise and the transformative power of simplifying one's life. Through these discussions, we aim to create a holistic, practice-oriented framework that you can return to again and again for guidance and inspiration. Let's start with the 3 areas of training, desire, action, and ascent. In Stoic teaching, these categories represent 3 primary dimensions of human life. First is the training of desire, which relates to what we want, crave, and yearn for. Stoicism advises us to examine our desires and ask whether they serve our well-being or compromise our virtue. For instance, do we desire social approval to the point that we neglect our own values or authenticity? Do we crave constant entertainment or indulgent luxuries that undermine our financial stability or relationships? By gaining clarity on these questions, we align our desires with rational self-interest and moral virtue, thus averting future regrets and anxieties. Second is the training of action, which concerns the way we respond to external events. Even if we harbor virtuous thoughts, they remain inert unless translated into practical deeds. Stoicism holds that it is not enough to think about courage. We must act courageously when faced with challenges. By consistently doing what is right, no matter how small the act, we build a robust moral character over time. This principle resonates with Aristotle's belief that we become what we repeatedly do, reinforcing the idea that actions, not just intentions, define who we are. Third is the training of ascent, referring to our capacity to evaluate and interpret the impressions that bombard our minds daily. We must learn to identify whether these impressions, news headlines, social media updates, or personal anxieties are accurate or distorted. Developing this skill helps us respond wisely rather than be swept up in emotional tides. For example, if a friend forgets to return our phone call, we might initially interpret this as a sign of neglect or disrespect. But by training our ascent, we pause to consider alternative explanations. Maybe they're busy, perhaps they lost their phone, or they're dealing with a personal crisis. This open-minded approach fosters emotional resilience and interpersonal harmony. When we combine these three areas of training, shaping our desires, guiding our actions, and carefully choosing our interpretations, we cultivate a powerful mental toolkit. No longer are we passive victims of impulse or external events. Instead, we become active participants in our own moral and psychological evolution. This synergy underscores the Stoic conviction that individuals, by regulating their own minds, can lead lives marked by tranquility and ethical clarity, even amidst chaos. Indeed, the synergy between training, desire, action, and assent is the beating heart of Stoic practice, enabling us to integrate philosophy into everyday choices, from how we respond to an irate co-worker to how we handle a personal crisis. Next, let's explore the importance of observing the whys, a lesson that Stoics have championed for centuries. This principle acknowledges that much of human learning takes place not through abstract instructions, but through real-life examples. When we identify individuals whose qualities we respect be they historical figures, modern icons, or people we personally know, and examine how they live, solve problems, and treat others, we acquire a roadmap for our own behavior. This is especially valuable in Stoicism, which emphasizes virtue in action rather than static knowledge. The ancient Stoics looked to role models like Socrates, admired for his intellectual rigor and moral bravery in the face of condemnation, and Cato the Younger, lauded for his incorruptible integrity in Roman politics. By observing these figures' responses to adversity, whether philosophical persecution or political manipulation, students of Stoicism learned practical lessons about composure, moral consistency, and dedication to principle. Modern parallels exist everywhere. Mentors in business, teachers in academia, community elders in religious or civic settings, and even certain family members can serve as powerful examples. The key lies in recognizing the character traits we wish to emulate: resilience, patience, generosity, wisdom, and seeking out those who display them. Moreover, the Stoics believe that teaching is a two-way street. Not only do we learn by following wise individuals, but as Seneca noted, we reinforce our own understanding by sharing it. By helping guide others, we clarify our own moral and philosophical positions. This interplay fosters a sense of collective growth. When a business leader, for instance, takes on a mentee and demonstrates transparency, fairness, and vision, that mentee not only thrives professionally, but often adopts these virtues in their own leadership style. The cycle continues as the mentee eventually mentors someone else, perpetuating a legacy of constructive values. We should note that observing the wise does not imply blind hero worship. Stoics encourage critical thinking even toward one's role models. After all, even the greatest sages had flaws, and uncritically imitating someone might lead us astray. The goal is not to replicate every aspect of another's life, but to glean the best practices that align with Stoic principles, particularly focusing on self-restraint, compassion, and equanimity. When we apply a discerning eye, we avoid the pitfalls of copying mistakes or misinterpretations. For practical application, you might start by identifying one or two individuals in your personal or professional circles who embody traits you admire. Observe how they handle pressure. How do they react to setbacks? How do they treat colleagues, loved ones, or strangers if possible, seek mentorship, or initiate conversations to glean insights directly from them? And if they are historical figures, immerse yourself in their biographies, letters, or personal accounts. Throughout this process, keep a journal of the qualities you aspire to develop, along with reflections on how those qualities manifest in your daily life. This regular introspection helps transform role model-based admiration into concrete personal growth. Finally, we turn to the practice of simplifying life, an approach championed not just by Stoics, but also by a variety of minimalist and mindfulness philosophies today. The premise is straightforward. Modern life is complicated, filled with digital clutter, consumerist pressures, and an unending array of commitments. Stoicism teaches that external distractions can disrupt inner peace, making it more difficult to distinguish between what is genuinely important and what merely creates noise. By consciously decluttering both our physical and mental spaces, we reclaim valuable energy and attention, which can then be directed toward higher pursuits. In practical terms, simplification can start with something as concrete as tidying up your environment. When you rid yourself of unnecessary items, clothes that go unworn, outdated gadgets, superfluous decor, you create a living or working space that feels more open and less chaotic. Outer order, as many have noted, often fosters an inner sense of calm. This is not about deprivation, it's about selective focus. You may discover that by decluttering you can better appreciate the possessions that hold real sentimental or functional value. Minimalism can extend beyond the physical realm into how we schedule our days. Stoics caution against the trap of busyness for busyness' sake. Attending endless meetings, juggling multiple side projects, or multitasking through every waking hour might look industrious, but it often leads to burnout or a sense that life is passing by in a blur. Simplicity asks us to pare down commitments and concentrate on what truly aligns with our values. This might mean limiting social media use, declining invitations that don't serve a meaningful purpose, or carving out undistracted time to engage deeply with a single pursuit, be it writing exercise, studying, or cultivating relationships. Moreover, mental clutter can be addressed with intentional effort. The Day in Review practice, introduced in Part 1, already serves this function by allowing us to process the events, thoughts, and emotions of the day. When combined with a willingness to let go of unproductive ruminations, simplifying our mental processes becomes more attainable. We can further support this by setting boundaries on how much negative news or emotionally draining content we consume. While staying informed is valuable, Stoic clarity suggests that over-immersion in sensational or anxiety-inducing content disrupts emotional balance and can lead to unnecessary distress. Historically, many Stoics, including Epictetus, lived with minimal possessions and found it liberating. Yet the point was never to glorify poverty. It was to ensure personal freedom from attachment and from the stresses that arise when one is perpetually chasing more stuff. Today, some individuals adopt digital detox strategies, removing excessive apps from their phones, unsubscribing from unread newsletters, and establishing technology-free weekends. Others simplify finances by using budgeting methods that promote mindful spending. The overarching principle is that by reducing superfluous engagements, material or otherwise, we create spaciousness in our lives, where reflection virtue and genuine personal connection can flourish. Through simplification, we become more aware of life's richness, recognizing that experiences, relationships, and purposeful endeavors often bring greater joy than any accumulation of extraneous possessions or obligations. As we integrate the training of desire action and ascent, the guidance of wise mentors, and the art of simplification, the final tapestry of Stoicism emerges more vividly. These practices form a comprehensive system that addresses internal motivations, external behaviors, and the social and environmental contexts in which we operate. Stoicism does not claim that life will become free of obstacles or that negative emotions will vanish. Rather, it reassures us that we are equipped to respond to challenges with grace, perspective, and a sense of moral purpose. A typical day shaped by Stoic disciplines might look something like this. You wake up and follow your morning ritual, which includes reflecting on the day's intentions and perhaps a personal mantra that grounds you in patience or courage. As you encounter the day's tasks, you exercise discipline over your desires. For instance, when you feel the pull to doom scroll on social media or engage in trivial gossip, you remind yourself of your bigger goals, improving your craft, nurturing your family, or perhaps contributing something worthwhile to your community. If a minor crisis emerges, you remember the training of assent. You assess the situation rationally, question your initial assumptions, and choose a response that aligns with your values. Throughout the day, you consciously put into action the virtues you admire in your role models. Perhaps you recall how a mentor once handled a similar situation with composure, or how a historical figure used logic to diffuse tension in a charged political environment. By modeling these behaviors, you gradually internalize them until they become part of your own moral and psychological toolkit. In parallel, you practice simplification by resisting the urge to overschedule or to accumulate mental or material clutter. Instead, you leave room for spontaneity, for deep conversation, or for quiet reflection, harnessing those precious unoccupied moments that modern culture often overlooks. Come evening, you engage in your day in review, identifying one or two successes, acknowledging any lapses, and mentally rehearsing how you can adjust tomorrow. This reflection might also highlight whether you slipped into unhelpful desires like chasing after fleeting validation, or if you remained faithful to your deeper, Stoic-informed priorities. At times, you might realize you spent too much on unnecessary items or committed to events that didn't resonate with your core values. Rather than berating yourself, you appreciate the awareness gained and make a plan to pivot. The emphasis remains on consistent refinement, not perfection. In living this way, moments of dissonance where your daily habits clash with Stoic ideals will inevitably arise. Perhaps you find yourself short-tempered with a friend or overindulging in another binge of online shopping. But because you have established systematic reflection and anchored your actions with a sense of purpose, these setbacks become lessons rather than permanent derailments. The discipline in desire, action, and assent helps you see these missteps clearly, while the wisdom gained from mentors and simplified living provides a conducive environment for personal transformation. In essence, Stoic practice evolves into a coherent lifestyle, a philosophy of life in the truest sense, bridging ancient insights with the complexities of contemporary existence. To fully appreciate the reach and relevance of these last few lessons, consider how they manifest across different life spheres. In a corporate setting, a leader who applies the 3 areas of training will question inflated desires for power or prestige, focusing instead on ethical leadership training of desire. They will act consistently, treating employees fairly, communicating transparently, and holding to their commitments, training of action. And they will interpret setbacks, market fluctuations, or interpersonal conflicts with clarity and composure, searching for rational explanations over knee-jerk emotional judgments, training of assent. This leader might also draw insight from wise peers or historical figures in management, refining their approach by observation and mentorship. By simplifying procedures and focusing on the core mission, they keep organizational complexity in check, ensuring that teams remain agile and engaged. Similarly, in personal relationships, these same principles can minimize drama and strengthen bonds. Let's say you're working through a disagreement with a partner or close friend. Desire training might involve identifying if your need to be right is overshadowing the genuine pursuit of mutual understanding. Action training might compel you to take the step of initiating a calm discussion rather than avoiding the issue or lashing out in anger. Ascent training would remind you not to interpret the other person's every word as a personal attack. You look for the underlying reasons or emotional states fueling their perspective. Observing the whys could mean recalling how a trusted mentor or a parent you respect once navigated relationship conflicts with empathy and honesty. And finally, simplification might come into play by clearing away superfluous external stressors, setting aside uninterrupted time to talk, or removing distractions such as smartphones during crucial conversations. On a broader cultural level, the Stoic emphasis on simplification resonates with societal debates about sustainability, ethical consumption, and personal well-being. The more people adopt mindful spending habits and deliberate scheduling, the less they're caught in cycles of debt, overwork, or environmental depletion. The transformation starts at the personal level, but can ripple outward, influencing communities and social norms. Imagine a neighborhood where people actively reduce pointless consumption, freeing up resources, time, money, and mental bandwidth to invest in local projects, support neighbors in need, or cultivate shared spaces like community gardens. Although Stoicism does not explicitly prescribe communal activism, its emphasis on virtue, compassion, and wise use of resources naturally fosters a more cooperative and conscientious social dynamic. Even in spiritual or religious communities, the three areas of training can blend seamlessly with existing doctrines on humility, charity, and reflection. Many religious traditions, after all, share common ground with Stoicism in advocating self-control, moral living, and service to others. The presence of role models, saints, prophets, or revered teachers often parallels the Stoic concept of observing the wise. Meanwhile, monastic or retreat practices often highlight the same principle of simplification that Stoics recommend. In short, the lessons of Part 3 reinforce that Stoicism's final aim is not to remain a theoretical system, but to function across diverse settings, guiding individuals toward ethical and fulfilled lives. Approaching the conclusion of this journey, it's valuable to reflect on how all 9 lessons connect morning ritual sets, a tone of intentional calm each day. Day in review encourages consistent reflection and growth from daily experiences. Truth about money clarifies money's role as a tool, not a master. Push for deep understanding urges intellectual and empathic depth over surface-level info. Embrace the journey positions personal growth as more critical than any single outcome. Power of a mantra offers a concise way to realign thoughts with core values. 3 areas of training desire. Action Ascent organizes our inner faculties and behaviors around virtue. Watching the wise demonstrates the influence of role models and mentors on our development. Keep it simple declutters our space schedule and mind to make room for genuine priorities. Taken together, they form a robust blueprint for living well, inviting both introspection and outward application. This blueprint recognizes that we must cultivate good habits in how we start our day and how we end it. It acknowledges that while money can alleviate certain hardships, an overemphasis on it distracts from deeper fulfillment. It reminds us that true growth comes from seeking thorough understanding, from valuing the learning process over fleeting rewards, and from reinforcing constructive self-talk. It underscores the necessity of training our desires to align with virtue, our actions to reflect our best intentions, and our interpretations to stay flexible and fair-minded. It also teaches that we should actively seek the company or counsel of people who model the virtues we aim to develop. Finally, it reassures us that simplicity frees us from the tyranny of constant distraction and unnecessary complexity. This synergy encapsulates the Stoic ethos, a call to lead a life marked by resilience, reason, empathy, and meaning. The discipline required by Stoicism might initially feel demanding, but most practitioners discover that the structure it provides actually grants greater freedom. By systematically curtailing impulses, illusions, and mental clutter, we experience an increase in mental clarity and emotional equilibrium. In that sense, the Stoic approach is akin to a gardener pruning away unproductive or diseased branches so that the plant, our life, can flourish. Yet it's also important to recall that these Stoic teachings aren't dogmatic edicts. Each lesson can be adapted, expanded, or interpreted in light of individual circumstances. Stoicism is inherently pragmatic. If a particular Stoic exercise proves beneficial, integrate it wholeheartedly. If it doesn't resonate, or if you find a variation that suits you, better adapt accordingly. Philosophers like Epictetus would likely encourage such creative adaptation, as they taught that philosophy should be a living practice, not a static set of archaic rules. Returning to the original theme, we began with the proposition that Stoicism is more than just an academic interest. It's a lifestyle that fosters balanced self-governance. The repetition of these lessons and principles is integral to forming the mental habits that anchor a Stoic life. Much like learning a musical instrument, the consistent daily practice of these insights ensures that they sink in at a deeper level, shaping reflexive responses and thought patterns. Over time, the question shifts from "what would a Stoic do?" to "this is simply how I live." As we conclude Part 3 and wrap up this entire expanded script, it's worth emphasizing that Stoicism is an ongoing journey. No matter how thoroughly you internalize these 9 lessons, life will inevitably present fresh trials, new job roles, changing family dynamics, health concerns, or world events that demand resilience and creativity. It's in these moments of uncertainty that Stoicism truly proves its worth, enabling you to maintain composure, honor your values, and see opportunities for growth in even the most daunting scenarios. If you're new to Stoicism, consider starting with 1 lesson at a time, perhaps introducing a mindful morning ritual or doing a 5-minute day in review before bed. Observe how this small step impacts your sense of calm, productivity, or emotional equilibrium. Once you feel comfortable, add another practice, like using a mantra to reinforce a positive mindset, or reevaluating your financial habits through a Stoic lens. Gradual stacking of habits tends to yield more sustainable transformations than an all-out abrupt change. For those already conversant with Stoic ideas, this expanded discussion hopefully underscores the richness of the tradition. There's always a deeper layer to uncover, whether it's refining your approach to reflection, forging a stronger connection with a wise mentor, or paring down your personal environment to its essentials. Stoicism also interacts dynamically with other philosophies and spiritual practices, be they mindfulness, meditation, yoga, or even certain religious devotions. The possibility of cross-pollination and adaptation is vast, as long as the core Stoic ethos, commitment to reason virtue, and an appropriate focus on what lies within our control remains. Ultimately, These lessons aim to remind us that although external events and possessions can influence our circumstances, our internal approach to those circumstances remains the decisive factor in whether we experience agitation and contentment or something in between. It is deeply empowering to recognize that serenity and moral fortitude do not hinge on random factors like market conditions or other people's opinions, but largely on how we discipline our desires, actions, and interpretations. By adopting that perspective, we liberate ourselves from the reactive cycle of hoping the world will align perfectly with our preferences and instead concentrate on continuously honing the only domain we can truly govern ourselves. We bring this text to its conclusion with a heartfelt invitation. Commit to practicing what resonates with you most. Let these 9 lessons serve as guideposts, but also remain flexible enough to shape them around your unique life context. Don't worry about perfect adherence. Even Marcus Aurelius acknowledged his own lapses and weaknesses in his private writings. The essence lies in progress, not flawlessness. Over weeks, months, and years, the accumulated effect of living with stoic intentions can be transformative, offering greater peace, clearer purpose, and a sense that every moment, regardless of its challenges, is an opportunity for growth. That in the end may be the greatest gift of Stoicism, an ever-present invitation to live fully awake, guided by wisdom, and buoyed by inner strength. From my personal experience, embracing these timeless Stoic principles has been nothing short of life-changing. We've journeyed together, discovering how mindful mornings, meaningful reflections, and a simplified approach to success can ignite real joy and resilience in our busy lives. But now, I want to hear from you. Which part resonated most deeply? Have you experimented with Stoicism, or do you have your own powerful insights to share? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because your experiences and wisdom inspire our entire community. Remember, the best journeys are taken together, and every perspective shared enriches us all. Thank you for being part of this incredible ride toward greater clarity, purpose, and inner peace. Until next time, stay mindful, stay strong, and stay inspired.